Okay, so this is Piccadilly Gardens VR. I will now take you on a tour of the site, if this works. Hopefully it will. Okay. Yeah, I put the controllers down for a second, so it's going to spaz out for a minute. Okay, let me just give you some reference points. Let me see if I can just get rid of this. Okay. So that's the old Hotel Piccadilly on the other side. City Tower. These are obviously the sunken gardens, which has all now been demolished. That's the old toilet block over there, which has also been demolished. So yeah, people used to sit around the sunken gardens on old deck chairs like this. There were loads of benches as well, and it was probably a very peaceful part of the city. Certainly not as jam-packed full of people now, not as many hard surfaces. And what I've tried to do here is show as much of the original planting layout as I can. I would say that the planting isn't fully accurate. I've actually had to rely on Enscape's asset library to be able to achieve this. So yeah, this was all created in SketchUp, and using the using Enscape, and this is obviously the VR extension to that, and it gives you a real sense of immersion in what the space may have been like. I relied wholly on old photographs, some film footage. Pretty much that's it as references to be able to recreate this space, and I've tried to populate it with people as well, make it seem like it was it was a space that people used, but I guess adding people into the equation gives it that extra sense of realism as a lived-in space and a used space. So let's go down into the garden itself. So this is a work in progress, I would say, because as you can see, the buildings around the edge, they're all, the footprint's fairly accurate, but none of the facades have any detail. These buildings that you see to the right here, these are assets that I managed to find on this 3D warehouse that have detail, and you can see the benefit of having something like that there. It gives it a bit more context, and likewise with the statues as well. I haven't been able to come across the Queen Victoria statue, for example, which I think is a useful reference point. So yeah, the sunken gardens. There used to be a series of lawns and flower beds in a grid-like formation, fairly generic layout. It's of its time. There was certainly a lot of well-planted flower beds. There's a very limited selection in the asset library for what I could put here, so I've tried to add some detail in there. Yeah, you get the odd one which I haven't sunken. For some reason, the asset library in Enscape, the shrubs generally seem to be in pots. I think Enscape's something that's generally used in interior design, maybe not as much with landscape architecture, but if the Enscape guys could take note of that and create more shrubs which aren't in pots, that would be good, because I have to sink all of them to make it appear like they're growing out the ground and not in a pot. So this is the original centerpiece. It was all made of stone. It does still exist now, I believe, in a park in Manchester, which I forget the name of. It's not an active water fountain anymore. It's just the stone piece itself. It had a sculpture centrally similar to this. Not so much a globe. I think it was just a metal circle, but that's as close as I could find. So generally, I've tried to use the assets that have been available rather than reinventing the wheel every time. It's a time consuming process, and if there's something that's available, make use of it. Saves you heaps of time. um, they have added some animated elements to Enscape. You can see the trees are moving, the water shimmers in the fountain. Obviously these birds aren't moving. I guess that's where something like Lumion maybe is a little bit ahead of the game. They've got animated assets in there, not just animals, but humans as well. And I think that adds a lot to it. It makes it seem like it's a more animated space, because at the moment, this is very, very static. There's another flower out the ground. With the old buses, I tried to change the paintwork on those. It was a generic bus off 3D Warehouse. I believe the old buses in Manchester were generally all white and orange, so I changed the colour scheme. Yeah, there's not too much more to it, but I'm still trying to add detail, and this isn't a space that I experienced in real life. I didn't actually get to the UK until '91, and I think it was maybe around that time that the sunken garden was still around. But I think in the early '90s it all got filled in and got redesigned. So yeah, I'd love to hear all your comments about what's wrong with the reimagining of the space from back in this time. But I thought it'd be an interesting project for people to see what a public space used to be like. So this could be a useful historic resource. It might help jog people's memories. There's a lot of newspaper reports that people sort of jump on the bandwagon and they're complaining about the new designs of the space. But I think if you put it into the balance, you look at something like this. There's not as much to do in this space as there is in the redesigned spaces. For all it might have its flaws, too much hardscape. It's got a lot of merits to it as well. Obviously, the water features. It's properly designed by landscape architects, and I'm sure the next iterations of the space will be also. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. One of the other good things you can do in Enscape is change the time of day as well. I've put some lighting effects on the lampposts. Whether we can switch over now, just so I can give you a demonstration of that. Oh, that's not the one. Don't want to be in fly mode. Okay, let's see. Time of day. Here we go. We're going into evening. Let's get these lights going. Yeah. So I'm just getting my head around some of the lighting effects on here, but you have a general idea. You can. It's a bit more like a game engine in some respects, where you can add some of the lighting effects to it. I'm sure it would have been a bit more illuminated than this, but all of the light posts have some lighting now, at least, so we can see what it's like during different times of the day. I'm not sure how much of a nighttime experience this space ever had at this point in time, pre kind of early 90s, but get some of the nice sunrises and sunsets, and at least it was a very green space. You can see it would have been a very nice space to relax during a lunch break on the banks or on the seats down below. A lot of the photos that I've seen, all of these, sitting seating around the edge were completely rammed with people. So it was obviously a very well used space. So it's maybe not such a surprise that there was a bit of conjecture about how much hardscape there is now, and people always look at these kind of contested spaces with rose tinted glasses, and they're like, oh, it was better back in the day. I think that's something that we should think about a bit more. There's a lot of work that goes into the design of spaces, and it's very easy to turn around and say, well, I liked it better back in the day. But I think we often think about these things as not just what it was as a physical design, but as individuals, who were we at that point in time. So if this was a space that you experienced in your 20s in the 70s, yeah, you probably have thought about that as quite a youthful time in your life. But as someone a bit more aged now, it's easy to sort of look at the current design of the space and think, oh, I don't like that. But think about what that space is to the youth of today. That's all they know. So again, that's possibly why this model will be useful in years to come, as we add more detail to it. Thanks. My name's Mark Jackson. I'm from Place Jam.